Hello and welcome to, what is the show called? How to Citizen. Yes, that's what this show is called, right?
Is it?
Is
Okay.
it? Have you learned How to Citizen by now?
I'm still learning. The thing, I think it's a never-ending journey.
Yeah.
You don't just become a citizen.
Right.
Every day you have to try and be a citizen.
After the last episode, which was in Delhi, by the way.
Yeah. What a good
You
time
remember,
that was.
right?
Of course.
that was quite a mind-boggling episode, I must say.
Absolutely.
Nidhi had many things to say.
My mind was boggled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just to let you know, guys, that was recorded, I think, around the time Adani had taken over NDTV.
Correct.
Around, I mean, just barely. So you will not find many mentions of that in that podcast. So it was a long time ago. So I know, like, you guys have been commenting about Adani ke baare mein baat kyun nahi kiya, etc. So please understand.
Is this the new format? Every introduction of episode you apologize for the last episode what you didn't do?
This one requires it, right? Because of the reaction that we got already.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So we are here, Shreyas, with chapter 7.
Yes. Very excited. Markets around us.
Yeah. You want to introduce, since you're a fan?
Yeah, I think this is the most I've fanboyed over any guest that we have had across 2 seasons.
My God.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It's your book is mind blowing. This book has also become the book that people who don't read books but want to be smart and say that, oh, have you read this? I think for a while this book had become that placeholder.
See,
I love it.
Rukmini, this is why I never let him do introductions. Right?
No,
Because
it sounds
It's social
like
currency.
a slight, but it's not.
It's not.
I'm very happy to hear that.
that's fine. ये praise waise कर रहा है, but introduce नहीं किया ना.
Oh, right.
So hello, Rukmini S.
Rukmini S, a data journalist who I feel when you read data, I feel like you are the only one who can read that language. It's like a foreign language that only you can read. You can read numbers. I only have 2 modes. I either have insult or exaggeration. There's no middle ground that I have.
Yeah, I should say that there's a few people who do this well.
There are a few people. Yes, and you are amongst them.
Thank you.
Give me the book. Let's show it to the audience. So the book is called Whole Numbers and Half Truths: What Data Can and Cannot Tell Us About Modern India.
That's a
This
really
is the
dirty
book.
copy.
Yeah, because he used it clearly
Feel
a
like
lot.
scrubbing it a bit. Yeah.
But clearly he's had it for a while because it's all like dog-eared and it looks old.
It's looking like a grantha.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
It looks. Do you feel nice when your book looks like that
Yes.
versus when it looks like a fresh copy?
I do. And it also doesn't look pirated, which is great.
Yeah. It's not.
It's also hardcover, so
It's only in
It's
hardcover.
only
We
in
haven't gone to
hardcover.
paperback yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
you have a Kindle edition though.
That we do, yeah.
Yeah, I bought it and I am going to read it soon. I haven't read it. You have. So
No spoilers. Don't worry.
So
okay.
I'm going to talk to only Shreyas for the rest of this episode. I'm just blanking this side of the screen out now. There's some guy there in Shreyas.
But so the reason why we got her for this particular episode, right? The chapter is called Markets Around Us, right? And we thought that till now we have had like a bunch of guests, which is like, celebrities and journalists and whatever. But we thought that this is one chapter where we also want to go to like a little different concepts, right? And especially because you wrote that fabulous book and I have read some
How
of
do
the
you
work.
know it's fabulous?
Shreyas told me it's fabulous right now. I didn't
That
even
book.
Yeah,
That's all you're allowed to say.
that book. So we thought that we can go deeper into just markets and what they mean for India and how they operate in India and whether they can be better and things like that.
Before we do
That
that,
makes me very nervous, I'll have to say, because, I feel like I don't fully understand markets. So I'm the perfect guest.
Right.
We're going to bumble through it together. Yeah.
before we also go into the chapter, I just want to quickly ask you, what were you like as a student? So imagine if there were a Viva happening, right? What do you do right before the Viva? Are you preparing? Are you with your friends? Are you by the water cooler? What are you like as an 8th grader, as a 7th grader?
There was no water cooler in my school.
Okay, fair enough. Neither did mine. I don't know why I said that.
I know. What do you think? You're the office? What's going on? I was sort of annoyingly sincere.
Yeah.
Luckily, I went to a school that, I don't know about other things in hindsight, but at least they taught well.
Yeah.
And we had good books, and I enjoyed the academic part of school.
Which school were you in?
I was in St. Mary's School, Pune.
Oh, you were
Yeah.
in Pune. You studied in Pune?
I grew up right till graduation in Pune, and my parents live in Pune, so I am a Pune person.
Oh, you're a Pune person.
Yes.
Nice. But you're now in Chennai.
I'm now in Chennai. I've
Right.
lived there for the last 6 years. Now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So what was school like?
You're
So
a
life
first bencher
is
always.
A bit, yeah. I think very differently about school now that I have kids because so I know that my school was pretty sort of conventional, tough, academic, all of that. And I came out of school thinking, even though it was so conventional, it was great and I loved it. And, why do we need to go to these arty-farty schools which are all alternative and, digging ditches?
Yeah.
And it's great. Conventional schools are
Right.
fine. They seem very regimented, but life is fine after that.
Right.
And now when I think about it, I wouldn't want to put my kids into one of these super regimented
Right.
schools because although my experience was great, it's not universal for everybody.
Right.
So if you did struggle with academics, or if there was some part that didn't work for you, or you had a learning disability, or you were disadvantaged in some way, you would have had an awful time in my school.
Correct.
To which I was completely oblivious. But now that I have kids, I wouldn't want to put them through that. Where the possibility of insult is just around the corner.
Correct.
Now I think differently. I mean, so I don't want to go. We haven't gone full arty-fatty with my kids,
Yeah.
but I don't want them to be in like a, you get failed at age 4 for not folding color paper
Yeah.
correctly
You don't
or
want that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely. not.
Also, as a data journalist, has it just become difficult? Like, do you just have to invalidate all the truths, all the lived experiences that you have because you're like, yeah, I did this, but the data. Like, has that happened whenever you are just talking in general?
I think a combination of things. One is yes, but the data. The other is just talking more broadly to people and
Right.
moving beyond the highly privileged lives that you I grew up in.
Correct.
It's been about growing up. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But in school, so you were like a topper. Like you were a sincere child, right? And this is actually interesting what she said, right? Which is like even though you were probably oblivious to the suffering of the non-academic, non-physically, prowessed children. Why did I say that? But
It's not physically progress. I came last in every running race for sure.
Being a topper child has its advantage essentially. So you think that your kids have a 50-50 chance of either going this way or that way?
No, I don't think it works that way. I don't think genes divide themselves neatly in that way at all.
So because your fear can come from there, right? The only way they can get insulted in a regimented school is if they're not, the teacher's pet or like, they're not performing well, etc.
Yeah, but to me now, even the possibility of that existing or of the possibility of being in a place where anybody is insulted on those counts just seems so abhorrent.
Yeah.
That I don't want that for them.
Fair
at all.
enough. Did you like your civics teacher? Do you remember this chapter, by the way, or
So
anything?
I went to an ICSE school, so I definitely didn't
let's
have
go.
this. Yeah, I'm sorry. And my brother went to a state board school, so I think that tells you all you need to know about what my
Wow.
parents, who they thought they were putting all the eggs in whose basket.
Not even CBSE. Direct straight board.
This is it. State board, where his the bus fees were higher than the school fee.
Oh, of course.
And I went, and this was 10 minutes from home, and he cycled to school.
Right.
And I went all the way across town to an ICSE school. So I think my parents had made a rational investment. Of course, my brother went on to become an engineer and lives in Canada. And I do data and make terrible money. So I don't know how any of that worked out.
Take
I
that,
don't know.
parents.
So I didn't have this, and I think we had history and civics together. We didn't have civics separately. Also, I went to school in like the Jurassic age. So
Yeah. What year, if I may
I
ask?
absolutely refuse to do that. We'll have to use BCE and all of that. We're not going to do that. Though after I heard Omar Abdullah's episode, I'm like, okay, I'm at least younger than Omar Abdullah. I'm good.
Okay, we have one clue. We have to figure out by the end of it.
Yeah. No, we have had older guests on this, and they like what Omar went to school in the 80s or something, no? Like he said that he was in the
Yeah, I'm not ashamed about my age in the abstract, but you two are upsettingly young. That's the problem. It's the relative.
Hey, I'm not that young now. Okay.
Can you guys hear yourself? You need some hearing devices.
Just a
both of you.
Just a second. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't remember civics much, but I remember history, and I did find history hard, I think. I'm not very good at memorizing stuff, so I found it. No, and you don't have to memorize it. It needed to make sense and logic, and I don't think I spent enough time because maybe I wasn't interested enough.
Right.
So even now, I feel history is a huge gap in my sort of general knowledge of the country. But things that I was interested in, like science and English and Hindi, those teachers were good. That stuff I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
You were
But
good
I
at maths.
I was good at school math, and then in Pune, at least at the time, after your 10th, you went somewhere else for your 11th and 12th. And then I met boys for the first time, and then I stopped paying attention.
Fair enough. Great trajectory to life. Met boys. Let go of everything.
Yeah. So I did stop. I mean, I stopped being a topper between 11th and 3rd year.
Yeah. Too distracted.
Boys.
Amazing.
I was in a girls' school, and this was co-ed, and no, but also I think something happened with math, which is I missed a little, and then I couldn't catch up.
Yep.
I just went beyond me.
Yeah.
So I'm still amazed I passed all of that.
Fully, yeah. Like you feel like you are there, and then you miss one chapter, and then you miss 2 classes, then you don't understand the next chapter. Then 2 years later, you don't understand anything. You're like, commerce? Do I just go to commerce?
This is it. This is what happened with me as well. It's just so I remember my school math well. I mean, it really made sense. And then I was doing a BA in psychology, and there was a little bit of statistics, very little then, and that made sense. But everything in between just
blank.
Totally blank.
Yeah.
Oh, the math in BA didn't make sense to you.
The math in 11th and 12th didn't make sense to me because I did science, so it was proper math.
Correct.
It made absolutely. I'm amazed I passed. I just totally, flew over my head at some point, and as you're saying, then you're like clawing at it, but you just can't catch it. It's gone.
That happened with me with every subject.
Like life flew.
By the way, just as a warm-up for this, we have a few trigonometry and differentiation questions for you to attempt before we. So if you would be,
I would have believed that if Meghnad gave any impression of being able to do any of that, I'm okay. I think I'm set.
I'm not going to go there. Yes, let's just put it that way. But first impressions of chapter.
I'm so impressed by how well it's written. I mean, I'm impressed by the writing. I
classic ICSE kid being like, oh, CBSE is also not bad. That's what this is.
I've never seen a CBSE book actually, so I didn't even know they look like this.
Yeah.
But what surprised you about it?
This is grade 7,
yeah,
right?
7th, yeah.
So it seemed very basic for grade 7 to me. I was a bit shocked by how
So 7th would be like 11, 12-year-olds.
No, 7th would be like 13-year-olds.
I would say 12, right? 13 is when you're in 8th standard.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I'm thinking of me. So I was in 8th standard.
6th is 12 years, 7th is 13, and like that's the general. It can be 1 year here.
Yeah,
you are a November
12, 13-year-old.
Yeah. So it seems way too basic to me for a 12, 13.
But then what was well written about it? Like what, when you say that it was well written?
I mean, the language seemed contemporary and not stodgy,
right?
Bureaucratic,
old-fashioned, which I would have thought. The pictures seem pretty contemporary as well. I wasn't expecting any of that.
Yeah.
I was also surprised by the pretty sort of empathetic tone. I wasn't expecting a woke textbook. So
I mean,
all of that seemed,
I don't know,
took me by surprise.
If it seems too woke, it's probably gonna change. Right?
No, they haven't. That's what it. So just for the listeners, so we got this copy from Sakshi. Gave it to me yesterday. यहाँ पे ना नीचे छोटे छोटे में लिखा है rationalized 2023-24. right? And just to give you context in case you've been living under a rock, so the current government has made a bunch of changes to textbooks, and there was a report in the Indian Express by Ritika Chopra about how the curriculum has been rationalized from 6th standard to 12th standard. What that means is they have taken chunks out of history and civics and whatever books, a lot of them, about most of it is like political in nature. Gandhi's assassination, Godse was not a Brahmin, all the things.
Is it even political? It's just history. It's just...
It is political because then you use that history to also kind of further your agenda, political agenda. But let's not get there. My point is that there is a rationalized 2023-2024 written here. So I will tell you at the appropriate moment something I noticed about this, which is suspense for this episode.
But that's an absurd word to use, no? Rationalized.
The rationalization came because they were like, COVID में बच्चों को बहुत load हो रहा है, so we will basically remove it.
Yeah, and rationalization is a term used for even things like price rationalization, all of that.
Oh,
so
right.
that I mean, in a sarkari way, it made sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Unit 5, and the chapter is called Markets Around Us. But there is a very interesting thing. So the teacher's note, I noticed something. So यहाँ पे ना, so in the teacher's note, and we have done this a bunch of times, they tell the teachers what to teach, right, and what to give time to. There are certain things which are interesting. So they said the opportunities are highly unequal. Ways do exist, such as those of cooperative marketing, which can provide a better return to the producers. However, we need to find many more viable avenues for equitable distribution. Right. So essentially, and they said in the end, hence one should allocate time for some questions not addressed in the text which students may wish to discuss. And this is specifically about inequality. Right. I mean, I think in even in the shorts in the market chapter, which you will see in the next episode, they talk a lot about inequality. But this episode may also, there are like signs of it, not really.
Yeah.
Do you think kids do discuss these things in class? Do you imagine that teachers are actually engaging them on something like inequality?
I think I would give some schools and teachers, more credit than others. And I do think that I do think it does happen. I would say probably not universally across the board, but I do think it does happen. It certainly did not happen in my school. There was no outside textbook discussion. There was a lot of even removal of things within the textbook. So that didn't happen then. But
the ICSE bhi itna acha nahi hai, okay? just saying. Yeah.
My school was very, very like, here's the textbook. Do well, get 90% in the ICSE, otherwise you're a total failure. That was the rough theme for ages 4 to 15.
I would say that is most of the schools.
Yeah.
I mean universally, like whoever we have asked through this podcast have been like, nahi, hamara to koi discussion nahi hota tha isme.
Yeah.
Like, and we've spoken to people who went to school in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Oh, now we have covered all decades basically, guest-wise. Yeah. So, and he is the most recent product of a school.
Did you go to school in the 2000s? Because then I'm not sure I can.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
just have to
2000s. I passed out in 2010.
Pull out the mic and just storm
Passed out
out.
in 2010.
Passed out of school in 2010.
Yeah.
10th standard in 2010. I was 2005.
Now I'm going to turn this way for the rest of the podcast.
I was also 2000. So 2005 is when I got out of 10th standard.
Actually, I didn't get out that long before. Okay, I'm going to behave. Calm down.
So I think that's a very interesting line that you pointed out, that the questions that are not addressed in the text students may wish to discuss. My first question is, why are they not addressed? Just like if you have to talk about it, just address the questions. I don't understand why. And we'll get this figure up later, but you have this figure of the mobility of Muslims that has been downwards, and also how across caste intergenerational mobility is just scarily low. So do you think if we put a figure like this in a civics textbook, in a 7th standard civics textbook, like will people be able to handle it? Will kids be able to handle it?
The concept, sure. The figure, no. I do think that's a hard one to interpret.
Right.
But the notion of the notion of not just inequality but also mobility, particularly intergenerational, should not be, from what I've seen of 12 and 13-year-olds, I don't think it's hard to discuss with them.
Right.
Yeah, and I do think it's important in some ways to discuss it, because there is, we feed kids with so much of hard work as a life motto,
Right.
that then sometimes, so if my kids feel that I've spent too much time at work or something, and you try to explain to them what work is and why you
Right.
do it, then the thing that follows from it is, so then everybody who's not rich didn't work hard, right? Because that's what you're teaching me.
Correct.
You're teaching me that we're working hard to run our house and family. So the person who I can see on the street asking for money, did they not work hard?
Right.
And I think intergenerational mobility is important to discuss in that way, to make it apparent to people that the trajectory of your life is not just in your hands
Correct.
in the same way that it is for everyone.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't expect kids to just automatically get it.
Right.
And it would be an important conversation to have.
This is if you extend that argument, then it also goes to that whole thing about how people on welfare are lazy. I think that is the same line of argument that, you're on welfare because you don't work hard enough.
Right.
So, go on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no. And I was saying that is such a pervasive, pernicious argument, particularly among older people, right? I mean, I live in Chennai, and Tamil Nadu has, there's so much conversation frequently among older people about how agricultural labor is now so difficult to get because people get everything they want and so they're lazy. I'm like, yeah, we need to talk about how wages work.
Yeah.
What wages mean.
Yeah.
So, or then, Narega has made people so lazy because they, you're not paying them more than what Narega, or then Narega has raised agricultural wages, and that's made farming, that's made it very difficult to get labor. It's not made it difficult to get labor, it's made it difficult to exploit labor for very little money.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah. To the listeners who don't know what Narega is, it's basically the government scheme called National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which gives 100 days of work guaranteed to people who want that work at minimum wage. And minimum wage is very minimum right now. And also, the interesting thing is, if you look it up, the stats of Narega, not all states are actually able to give that 100 days also.
Yeah, far from it.
I think the best that is I think Tripura, if I'm not wrong. This is from memory. यहाँ पे एक figure आ जाएगा जो बताएगा. But I think it's Tripura who is able to, I think, give like around 110 days of work, the best. And the lowest is something like 30s and 40s mein, which is terrible. I mean, like what you were pointing out is that Narega is making people lazy. Narega is a sign of desperation, right?
No, it's a sign of society failing you to a point
That's
that you
what.
don't
So
have.
you get desperate enough to work for minimum age using this scheme.
Yeah, I mean,
minimum wage. Sorry.
These are how social security nets work, right? When other avenues of decent work are not available, a society puts in place a social security net so that people don't fall below that. They're
Right.
able to at least make minimum wage, and then you provide that work for people.
Sure.
So, I mean, desperation is one thing, but if you frame it from a more dignity of labor perspective, that's the idea, that anybody willing and able to work is not able to be provided that work by the economy because it's failing in the ways that it is.
Right.
The state sets in place a net, and if you're not physically able to work, then the state puts in place other benefits
For
that
sure.
are, So that's the thinking behind it, and yeah, I mean, it changes wages as all social security does, right? So and we certainly saw during the pandemic this huge uptake of Narega, for example, because people went home.
Yeah.
There was, very little other work. It became essential. We see rise in women's participation in Narega at times.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do. There's a lot more. There's more work to provide under it. There's the types of work have to be worked on. There's wages coming on time to the right people
Yes.
to be worked on.
Yes.
But
The medium in which the wages are paid also, like zero balance accounts being opened and then getting transferred, versus a middleman sitting there and just siphoning off some money and not letting it.
Right.
Lots of problems there. But so sorry, before we begin, I just have one thing. So I've heard this statement a lot of times. You tell me if it's true or false, that Narega is a sign of rural distress. The more people are using this scheme, the more our rural economy is in distress. Is that true?
I think from a baseline number, if it rises, then it is a sign of something else going on, right? So it could be a sign, yes, of distress and not finding other jobs. It also could be a sign of more reverse migration happening. And I think we did see that in the pandemic. It isn't just that people didn't have work. It is true. People didn't have work. But it's also that so many people from cities had returned home. And then what productive... You had left the village in the first place because there wasn't enough work. Now you had to be back home for a while. So uptake of Narega grew. So it could
actually in your book, one of the things, sorry, I read reviews, so based on that, one of the things that they have highlighted, 3 reviews at least, is this whole fact about migration in India, where you are basically dispelling that notion, where so the general belief is that we are urbanizing fast, where people from small towns are moving to big cities, and you are like, no, that's not what is happening. Can you
I would love to. So one thing I do want to always say is that if I ever give the impression of complete certainty in numbers and what they're saying, I wouldn't want to do that. So again, I want to sort of preface this by saying that there's a possibility that there are things that the numbers are not picking up, and I'll tell you what that is. I don't want to leave that as some ambiguous caveat in which you can fill in everything and I'm safe. But I want to tell you specifically what that is. So yes, by our levels of income and development, we actually have lower levels of urbanization and migration than you would expect. Certainly lower levels of urbanization. So, for example, after every census, in a year or two after that, the census puts out projections for what they expect the world will look like in 10 or 20 years, India. And so between the 2001 and 2011 censuses, India didn't hit the rates of urbanization that had been anticipated in the 2001 census. So we are urbanizing more slowly than expected. Except for Kerala, I think no other state is more than 50% urban. So I'm leaving out the smaller ones, but I think Kerala maybe just crossed 50%. Now again, the projections for the future are for faster urbanization, but who knows if we're going to hit those. And sure, there are definitional issues here. So to meet the definition of urban, sometimes doesn't happen. Sometimes it becomes even a very political issue. I talk about that in the book. Sometimes because tax structures change, and so it's resisted, that tag. So sure, there are issues then. We could be missing some things in there. But yes, broadly we aren't urbanizing at a level that that sometimes people have the impression that we are. And about migration, well, 2 things that always amaze me. One is that I don't think we adequately realize that rural to rural migration is the vast share of Indian migration. We never think of it as that way.
That's
so
true.
If you think of a migrant, what you think of is of a Bihari man taking a train from Bihar to Bombay to work. While rural to rural female migration for marriage is actually the median migrant in India.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because so we have this, caste endogamy, but sort of village exogamy system of marriage, right? So you marry within the broad caste, but not within the, not within your village.
Correct.
Typically, you marry out of your village. So the female marriage migration is the vast majority of Indian migration. More than 50%, well over 50%.
It's interesting when we did this in another episode as well, where with Maruk, right, where so it was a chapter on gender, which is essentially there was this exercise that we will give you some professions and you tell us what you imagine in your head, like a teacher, female, scientist, maybe female, male, whatever, pilot, male, so things like that. Whenever I'm thinking of a migrant, I'm actually thinking of a man who is coming from Bihar to Bombay.
This is it.
I'm never thinking about a woman who is getting married and going from one village to the other, or
This is
one
it.
town to a village, or something of that sort.
Yeah.
In fact, there are people in my own family women in my own family who have migrated just for this reason.
So I am a marriage migrant as well. I am your median Indian migrant. I am a woman who migrated away from where she lives, sort of around circumstances to do with me getting married. So yeah, I am it. I am your median.
Yeah. Every day you learn. Okay, so we are getting into the chapter now. Chapter 7, Markets Around Us. Shreyas, you want to read the introduction?
Should I read the barcode also?
Yeah, sure.
Markets around us. We go to the market to buy many things. Vegetables, soap, toothpaste, masala, bread, rice, dal, clothes, notebooks, biscuits, etc. If we make a list of the goods that we purchase, it would be really long. There are many kinds of markets that we may visit for our everyday needs. These can include shops, hawker stalls in our neighborhood, a weekly market, a large shopping complex, perhaps even a mall. In this chapter, we look at some of these markets and try to understand how the goods that are sold there reach buyers, who these buyers are, who these sellers are, and the sort of problems they face.
I am very confused about why this chapter exists also sometimes, because sure, like, I mean, the entire chapter, like, from what I've read is, so there is a local market, there is like shop, and there is mall. That's it.
I think wholesale and retail was one thing that I thought could be a new concept which might be useful, but the rest seemed very
like basic, and as you said, basic, but also like, why? I mean, like, but I'm also wondering now that I'm thinking of as a kid, right? The places that I went to, the markets that I was exposed to, the kind of markets that I was exposed to, and maybe we can all sort of think about this a little as well. Okay, so there was a kirana shop that I went to often, which was in the neighborhood.
That's right.
तो हो गया शक्कर दाल वाल किराना लेने के लिए. Then once a month, because I lived in a joint family, my mom, my aunt, me, and my cousin would go to this supermarket, quote unquote supermarket. Now,
Was it Purti?
it was Bapat. Bapat, yeah. So
did it have like floors and stuff?
No, it was just a flat sort of warehouse building that was converted into like the shelves and everything.
AC?
No.
Okay.
No AC. But it had a cart.
Got it. So exciting.
Yeah, that is the best thing I loved about like dragging that cart around. And also the fact that we were given 3 items we could pick. Each of us that we would want in the cart.
Was there like a price limit?
No price limit. But I would usually pick like Fryams.
Okay.
Fryams.
What was the thing? The bubble gum that had a tattoo thing in it?
Boomer.
No,
Big
not
bubble.
boomer. You guys are this boomer generation. I mean the young boomer.
It's for 5 rupees. There's a tattoo of like a monster.
No, the colourful one.
Big bubble? No.
It's yellow and red and blue.
Yes. Okay, at least we're the same bubblegum generation at least.
With the panda on top of it?
Maybe.
If someone from that brand is listening, we will put your name in if you decide to sponsor this podcast. We will find it, we will put it on.
And it's like a sweet and sour taste.
If I'm not wrong, that's a Dubai brand. If I'm not wrong. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, this is
I'm talking Indian, guys. Indian bubble, big bubble, whatever. But okay, so we had this where we could pick 3 items and put it in a cart. And then other than that, I don't think we went to malls ever, probably because
we didn't have malls.
We
didn't have malls there.
Yeah. I think in around like when I was like 9th grade or 10th grade, in 2004-5 is when the first mall opened, and that just was exciting because it has a movie theater inside.
Okay, right.
It was a big fucking deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and it has a game arcade thing.
Oh my god, that's all you want.
That's all.
Yeah.
But other than that, the shops were the same.
I see. It didn't have like a McDonald's or something.
We had
McDonald's came in 2016.
Yeah. Into Nagpur.
First McDonald's in Nagpur.
2016?
Yeah.
On Parva.
Yeah.
So I have an article about this. We will link this article here because it had 4.8 on Zomato. McDonald's when it opened.
Yeah.
Because people were just like, we have been waiting for this for so many years. There
But
were traffic
McDonald's is
jams.
always rated very high I mean, like even now, McDonald's and KFC are very
It's high
highly
on
rated
highly
on Zomato.
rated,
Yeah.
But KFC came before McDonald's actually.
KFC came
What?
slightly
Yeah.
before
Oh.
McDonald's.
Yeah, which was
okay.
also not like it was like 2014, 15
Okay.
KFC came.
Yeah.
But in Nagpur, Domino's came early.
Right, yeah. Domino's, Pizza Hut and Domino's were
Pizza
there
Hut
for
and
a while.
Domino's came
Yeah,
much
yeah.
early.
Pizza took time. Pizza came
Yeah,
a little
but
later.
in the malls though, like
Huh.
the bigger mall just opened in the 2010s, I would say. Like I mean, whatever. But so, what were the kind of shops you guys were exposed to?
I also had a neighborhood kirana. And I say had, but it has remained, I mean, it's had a glow up, but it's still pretty much the same where my parents' house is. But it was more than one kirana, multiple, 2, 3, all sort of related to each other. Marwadi men running it. Yeah, which was great.
Also,
And you could get
kirana
everything.
ke saath there would be a vegetable shop also,
Correct,
which is like
outside.
the neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
the same one. Yeah. So that was exactly how it was. Then there's a big vegetable, I wouldn't say wholesale, but a bigger market called Mandai in Pune, which is in like a historical building. So that would be we'd go there as like a fun thing to do, to see, like as far as the eye can see, you can see tomatoes. So
Right.
your school trip would take you there once in a while. My parents would take
School trip would take you to a market.
Yeah, it was like it's a historical building. It has like a ghanta ghar and it's a big, it's a huge thing.
Oh,
Mandai
interesting.
and Pune
Okay,
is like a
okay.
big deal.
Uh-huh. But what did you do there?
Go and see everything over
Oh,
there.
just
the
say
bhajis.
school trip. Bhaji
Yeah.
dekho.
Yeah, learn little about wholesale
ICSE
retail.
वाले यार ICSE वाले
Yeah.
पीछे छोड़ देंगे
But
हमको.
did they teach you how to buy things and bargain and all?
I don't think nobody's going to teach you to bargain.
That's the whole point of this chapter, guys. वहाँ पे लिखा है बहुत
No,
जगह
I
पे
think they
read
should
about
teach you
it.
to pay fair wages, not bargain.
But okay, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so they can teach us that. So that was the other one I remember. Then I do clearly remember when malls came, and it was a big thing. It was a big sort of cultural movement also. Like, are you going to be a mall person or not?
Yes.
There was like, who am I really? That happened a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit. Yeah, and for us also the gateway drug was the movie theaters
Movie
and the
theatre,
malls. Yeah. And then I think in college, shopping and hanging out in a mall was a
That
thing
became
that
the
I got
thing.
excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what was shopping for us. I don't really remember doing like a big. My household didn't do a big monthly, dal
Shopping trip.
rice thing. No, it was always shorter. I see my mum-in-law doing it, and I feel, when I grow up, I want to be able to figure out how much dal I'm going to need for the month and
yeah.
do it on the first of the
Yeah,
month.
right,
That is
yeah.
my mother-in-law. I absolutely. She must just think I just have not learned how to citizen chodo, how to adult only to buy enough dal for the month. I'm just not there at all.
But why is it such a mystery?
It is a mystery. Actually, okay. So I kind of agree with this because it is a superpower sort of. Because
it is a superpower.
the thing is, I realized why we did that also, the monthly trip, is because of the joint family system.
Right.
Because all the brothers were making their share and paying. So monthly budget tha,
Correct.
घर के लिए, उसमें से खरीदना है सब कुछ.
And then you had to keep within it.
We have
This
to
is the
keep
thing.
within it.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, if you require like extra sugar and ये वो थोड़ा सा ऊपर का 500-600 रुपए का खर्चा.
No, but then it would be like, hey, what happened? Why did we not?
Yes.
There was that
There
thinking
was.
around it.
There
Now
was,
it's just
yeah.
like,
It's like
I
budget
think
के
it's
बाहर जा
important.
रहे इस month.
Correct. Yeah.
And then the next month's budget is affected because of that.
Correct.
Oh.
And also surplus भी होता था ना कभी-कभी where we didn't spend that much this month, so something is. But it's also a trial and error thing in a lot of ways, where I think the women in the house, which is my aunt and mom, like they were also like trying to figure out कि कौन सा budget perfect है, right, in a month.
Yeah.
Right, and then they were like trying to stay in that limit, and they're trying to figure out कि अच्छा तो ये किया वो किया, and then that's why they were hyper aware about the prices,
Yes, absolutely.
about the price increase or
Yeah.
decrease or whatever,
Yeah.
which I don't think I am that aware about.
Me neither. Yeah.
What has changed? Like, I mean, why? I find this often with me, my
Yeah.
friends. I think you are not aware about much prices also now.
I am.
How really?
In changes, like, when bread goes up and down, much
Not
less
really,
so.
no.
But I think we're just much more comfortably off than our
Yeah, we are
parents
just privileged.
were. That's it.
We are just more just more comfortable.
We have much more
financially also.
elbow room with money than our parents did. Certainly in my case.
Should we be hyper aware about prices, or is it not necessary?
I mean, I wouldn't say any information is not good to have.
Will it help? Is a better question. If you and me and Shreyas are hyper aware about ये price बढ़ गया है कम हो गया है.
It'll help to citizen. Yeah. So the way that increase in prices of say milk, onions, dal, all are enormous political issues.
अभी एक आया था. Amul has increased its price by 2 rupees for milk.
2 rupees is a lot.
2 rupees is a lot. Yeah, go on.
No, so then we would be much more attuned to this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it would make sense to us, or we would see it coming.
Right.
So I remember, one of the first bits of reporting that I did after I sort of made this shift to data in a way was on food insecurity in Bundelkhand at that time. Where, and this is funny, when I was thinking of markets when we came up here, I was trying to think of markets apart from Pune and now Chennai or wherever I've lived that I've been to. So I remember when I was doing that reporting from the local markets was very, very important because it was these price changes we were reporting on. And there, the change in the price of dal, must have had enormous effects on even nutrition and stuff because it really, it was monumental. Then I remember when dal crossed 100 rupees a kilo for the first time back then, it was a huge deal. So, and I remember those markets as well. They were very differently set up from markets I'd ever seen. So
like
there was
how would you say?
like loose dal in piles on the floor in an open market with men with umbrellas over their heads selling it. Not something I'd ever seen before.
Right.
I've seen that in Nagpur though.
Yeah.
That I think in Dharampet, that side mein there is a
market.
better.
Yeah.
Wahan pe there was. I mean now there isn't.
Yeah.
But earlier I remember like having this setup like
No, it
piles.
still is.
Still is
Yeah.
there. Oh, okay.
And I remember feeling quite, moved and sad almost by so that particular market, even the bhajis, there was vegetables, there was so little of each. So, there wasn't huge shopping
So they
going
would run
on.
out of.
Yeah, no, so
vegetables.
people were buying little, I felt.
Oh.
Everything was in small quantities
true.
then. In a smaller, like a small, it's not a small town. It's a tiny, closest mildly urban area to a very rural area. So that was a market unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Right.
Then I enjoy going to the markets around, around harvest festivals in India.
Yes.
There's such a, because the meal then is always like celebrating what's local, right? So we go to Madurai every year for Pongal because my in-laws are from there, and there the markets are such fun to see because that time of year there's all these, and you're sort of celebrating a bit of abundance then. Both the sambar and the avial or whatever you're making will have so many veggies in it, like 8 vegetables in one thing. Yeah, and there'll be beans, there'll be root vegetables. So I like that vision of a market where everybody is sort of coming shopping for, they're shopping for their big morning pongal meal in their own house. It's a nice vibe.
Cute.
Which is your favorite market to go to? Actually, that's an interesting. I think this is actually a good sort of example.
Right now?
Huh.
Right now.
Don't say food hall. I'll kill you.
No. Honestly, Zepto. Like it's just
Zepto. Fair enough. They also mention this.
They do. I was so impressed by that.
But there is a problem there. We'll come there.
Okay.
But also, my favorite market was in Sikkim during Dasai. Dasai is their version of, I think, Diwali. If I'm not wrong. Yeah. Around
Dasera, isn't it?
Dasai is
Yeah,
called.
no. Isn't it around Dasera?
Around the same time. I mean, I'm mixing the Dasera and Diwali together. That same festival season.
Yeah.
That market is just so lovely to go to during that time. It's just like colorful and fresh vegetables, also meat, lots of meat. So like there is this in Gangtok, there is this market area which is like, obviously it's a mountainous area, so it's like steps and you have to walk around a lot, upar se niche and whatever. Very nice. And also the shops are like full, people are chilling, they are eating momos, they're doing all the things. It's just the best, and the mountains you can see on the background.
And yeah, I can imagine how much I would eat after that.
I
Work
did
up a
eat a
serious-
lot after that. Yeah,
work up a serious appetite.
And the thing is that because we were living there,
Yeah.
we did monthly market trips there also
Oh, I
with
see.
my colleagues. So
Right.
because me and my colleagues were living in one area, one hotel, abandoned hotel, but we were living there. So we also had a monthly budget. And we were going to these markets to get, provisions, etc.,
Yeah.
which our cook would make, etc. So then we also did that. But yeah, we will take a small break here.
Yes.
And then we will resume for the next half of the podcast where we will discuss many, many things. If you are watching this podcast on YouTube, please like, share, do the things that you are supposed to do on YouTube. And also want to say that there are two other shows on this feed. One is Explain Like I'm 10, which I host, where we have one expert and we have a third random person who doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Why did you, for the expert, why did you do this? And for the random who doesn't know anything, why did you point towards me?
Because this is exactly the division there is.
Okay, all right. Just checking.
Shreyas was also in a few chapters, few episodes for Explain Like I'm 10. On activism, you were with Akar Patel, right?
Yeah,
we did that. And then there is another show called Page 10. If you're someone who doesn't follow the news and still want to know a little bit about what is happening, that is the show for you. You don't need to follow the news. You come to us. We give you 3 stories. We give you all the details. और बहुत बकचोदी करते हैं उस पे. So that is for you. See you after the break.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcasts Network. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus was joined by classic musician Prince Ramavarma. They spoke about his musical journey, his teachers, the story behind an erotic French song, and being born and raised in a royal family. On Anish Thing, Anish hosted Avinash M, founder of FTS Fitness. They spoke about body recomposition, diet styles, and the fundamentals of body transformation. On All Things Policy, Anushka Saxena discusses the geopolitics of China-Taiwan relations with Ambassador Vijay Gokhale. And on The Habit Coach, Ashton shares some tips to curtail mindless munching at the airport. Once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcasts.com. We have some exciting stuff for you. Follow us on social media via IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, spread the word, tell your friends, and don't forget to rate and review them wherever you're listening to them. You'll also find all our shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. Cash-free payments and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you for making this possible.
Hello and welcome back to How to Citizen. Before the break, we were talking about many things and we will continue to talk about many things. That is the resumption that is going to happen now. And the many things that we are going to talk about is the actual chapter.
Right.
Yeah, and you were saying something.
Yeah, so one of the biggest misnomers, misconceptions I've seen in people around me is all freelancers, creative people in Bombay living in car being like, yo, I'm so broke, yo, it's bad, the country, the economy. And I recommend the chapter that you have where the stat, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you spend 8,500 rupees every month in 2017, because that's where the data is from, you're in the top 5% of urban India.
Oh, of course. I think the figure is now 21,000. I read this recently only.
Yeah, we
The
don't
top
really have a
10%.
new figure.
New figure,
So
okay.
this is what, I mean, everybody's done permutations around it. But yes,
Yeah.
8,500 all told. Rent, petrol, food, everything.
crazy.
Yeah. If you think of it in a household term, it changes a little bit. Like
Yeah.
if you think of a 4-person household, that would be like, 40 something ish, which makes you feel a little like you can think of households,
Right.
that because 8,500 you feel like, wow, I don't know anybody.
Correct.
But so that changes it a little bit,
Yeah.
but still it does certainly put life in perspective.
Also, why is everyone, and I feel this is a global phenomena also, that why is everyone trying to identify as the middle class?
Yeah.
Like even people who are richer,
That's true.
even people who are
Or poorer,
poorer, is it like a comfortable thing that you are just like, okay, I'm in the middle, I'm like everyone? Like what's the thinking behind it?
Yeah, I think it's become more of a conceptual category than anything else.
Right.
In the case of the rich, particularly the Indian rich, I do think it's a way of giving some sort of, getting to feel like a victim. Because
Yeah.
then you can say, nobody thinks of us. There are schemes
Yes.
for the poor. The super
Yes.
rich are living so happily, and nobody thinks of us. We're middle class. It's also become some weird virtue signaling thing about your values.
Hmm.
So, being, I grew up in this way, eating Parle-G biscuits. And
Simple
so I'm
living,
middle class.
high
This is
thinking,
it.
all of that.
This is it.
Yeah.
And about poorer people, I don't know. Maybe there's actual misidentification or not sort of realizing how poor they are relative to other people, or it could even be an aspirational thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
hypothesize about why that happens with the poor though.
Yeah, the worst thing that I've heard, the worst term I keep hearing is upper middle class. Like, what does that even mean, guys? Upper middle class. Like,
Yeah, what it means is, so I remember, when I was to write for the Times of India, we would often write underprivileged something, and I had an editor who used to be like, do not use that word, what you
Yeah.
mean is poor, stop feeling scared of using poor, use it, it's not a pejorative term, it's an actual
Right.
like number
Yeah.
term. So I think similarly people feel like nervous about using the word rich, so they'll say upper middle class. It's not upper middle class, it's the rich you're
it's
talking
the
about.
rich, Even now, I think the middle class, which we also think of, is actually rich. Like, I mean, till in my head, I'm still middle class, but I'm not. To be honest,
You're
I'm
not.
just not in
No.
middle class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everyone around me, even my parents aren't middle class. Our family is
Yeah.
not middle class.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
and we didn't grow up middle class either.
Yeah.
We feel that, relative to our current lives, that felt like a middle class life.
Right.
But even then, we weren't.
we
That wasn't the
went-
middle
yeah,
class
we
then
went the
either.
middle class.
No.
Yeah.
The country was middle class. That's why it felt a little different.
But okay, so like the chapter. Okay, so the chapter, the first thing that I will point out. So this is how it flows, the chapter. They start at the weekly market. They go to a permanent shop. Weekly market being non-permanent establishments where there are shops popping up once a week where traders don't have any permanent shops. And then they sell goods.
Sounds like a flea market when you say it like that.
It
is
is a
Yeah.
flea market, like, isn't it? No, it's not. Or is it?
The weekly market?
Yeah, the weekly market is not
No,
a flea market.
it's a flea market the way that Bandra has flea market.
Correct.
Yes. Fair enough. I was getting confused by that.
Yeah.
But
Which has nothing to do with a flea or maybe even a market.
A market, yeah. To get out of our bubbles.
yeah.
Stop ordering Zepto.
And then they move on to permanent establishment, which is shops, and then they move to malls and whatever. That's the whole chapter basically, right? But what I found very interesting about is the questions that they ask. There are some very existential questions that they ask also. Just reading things out. Explain with an example how people bargain in the market. Can you think of a situation where bargain would be unfair?
I love that question.
Yeah. I would like to hear your view on this. So this is here on the side.
I know, but I'm just saying that my front bencherness needs me to. I feel like they've actually dealt with it in the text. So if you were
The
a more
answer is right there.
sincere student, you
No,
would not be inventing it.
I'll refresh your memory. There is a part where they said that because there are so many other traders selling the same wares,
Right.
you have more leverage to basically bargain. Not in these words, but like you can bargain there versus in a shopping complex where you can't do that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's a demand and supply thing which they are trying to imply. But the fact is that can you think of a situation where bargain would be unfair? Now that is actually very interesting. Do you guys bargain when you go to these markets, like weekly markets or like smaller shops?
I bargain for on like linking road clothes stuff. But
Like
not
basically Sarojini market equivalent of Delhi.
yeah.
Huh.
Or like Fountain Plaza equivalent of Chennai. Why
Yeah.
are we getting all
Yeah.
Bombay, Delhi? I refuse.
Yeah.
But I can't think of other places where I bargain when I'm buying fish. I almost feel it's expected of me, and I feel so nervous about it because I don't know what the actual base price should be.
Prices,
So I feel
yeah.
like that lady can see right through me.
Right.
It's very upsetting. I try to hide. I try to go with my mother-in-law. She knows what she's doing. As
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
as you can
yeah.
see, she knows how to adult. and I
So,
don't.
what do you do when you are not with your mother-in-law and you don't know the cost?
I go to a big shop where there are pre-decided prices. Then I don't have to worry about
Yeah,
any of
worry
this. This expectation of me of being an adult who can bargain back
Yeah.
just is very stressful.
And the thing is-
Shreyas to doesn't even Zepto पे क्या bargain करेगा?
Correct, they're gone. But I don't bargain for vegetables and stuff, and in a kirana wala, what you going to bargain anyway? So.
No, I actively stopped bargaining after a point. I realized this. With like, for example, the best way I was bargaining was like auto walas and
Where? Which city?
Nagpur mein.
Acha, Nagpur.
Nagpur mein. I mean, like,
Well, if you grew up in Pune, Bombay, you would never have to
It's a
bargain.
meter
nahi hai na.
Yeah, they
Even in
return-
Delhi, they
Yeah.
don't use the meter. So,
Yeah.
like, you have to
True.
basically, you know how much it will take for you to go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But then after that, I started realizing that even the auto walas know who knows their shit and who
Yeah.
doesn't. So they just name the price which you know you will agree to.
Yeah.
But even if it's
They,
like 10
you know, there's a
20
word in
zyada,
Marathi which is likey. So
Likey.
they've kind of looked at you and told you what your likey
Yeah,
is,
तुझे लाइकी
basically.
he's like है तुझे.
औकात, I would
औकात,
imagine,
yes. Oh, I just realized all three of us are Marathi now.
Yes, I feel like we should just do the rest of this podcast in
मध्येच
Marathi.
करायचं का? चला आता
correct?
मराठीमध्ये
आपण
करूया आपण.
subtitles टाकू ना. That is how the rest of the world treats us. झालं संपलं.
Yeah.
Take over. Mutiny.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've stopped bargaining. Is that a good thing to do?
I think
Yes,
so.
of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Because my whole thing, which actually they also talk about, is that तुम मॉल में जाते हो तो bargain नहीं करते हो, फिर यहाँ पे क्यों bargain करते हो? I
And there are
don't
differences, but yeah, it's just it's an unpleasant way of being for people who are extremely well off like
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
Dude, in Kashmir, remember?
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
they refuse to bargain.
And then you feel like such a worm, right?
Right,
You're
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
what am I doing
Because
here?
we were like, okay, you know what, we'll pay you this. We'll pay you more because you like it. And they were like, no. So it was a different kind of fight happening there.
Yeah.
We're like, please, 200 more. They're like, no, not at all. Get out right now. Get your thing and get out.
It's so bizarre. Like we were actually I mean, I think actively we were not trying to bargain वहाँ पे. Like, I mean, it's like, हाँ ठीक है, जो है, it seems okay,
Yeah.
seems worth it, whatever. And there were points where we liked something so much, we thought it was cheap.
Yeah.
And then we were like, nee, we can give you like 200 more than this. And like, क्या बात कर रहे हो?
Yeah.
Insult.
Right.
What is this? Like, you take and go.
Right. I would love to just eliminate it from my life, right? It's such an unpleasant
Yeah.
You have
experience.
though practically.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
do
yeah.
it much,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm lucky. It doesn't come
Yeah.
into my life, and I don't. I use a car in Chennai, so I don't. Chennai also doesn't have meters, but I imagine you do end up having to do this with autos. So I'm lucky that I can eliminate it from my life.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like if I took my kids out somewhere and then they saw me like actively saying that I would pay less money than what that person asked for, they would find it appalling behavior.
Yeah.
They'd just
Really?
be, yeah,
Oh.
I do think so.
Yeah.
Wow.
They'd feel it's so weird.
Your
right,
kids are
to
going to take
say-
over the world in the best way possible.
No, I think the opposite is going to happen.
world
They're
will
just going to be like unprepared for
The
for
opposite
life.
happens with me now. Whenever, like, so my mom, intense bargainer.
Right.
Like, intense. Like, price bola to nahi, 20 rupees kam, 30 rupees kam.
Right.
And I tell my mom, dude, you don't need to do this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Like we went to Shillong recently, and there are these places we went to where there were like these pineapple walas who cut the pineapple, they put masala on top of it, and they give it to you in a packet, right? Now the dude is saying, हाँ 50 रुपए. I was taking out my wallet and I was not doing it. 50 रुपए? 50 रुपए?
Yeah.
30 रुपए में दो भैया.
Yeah.
I'm like, नहीं करना है.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Let's
I'm paying. It's
yeah.
okay.
It's
Don't
almost,
do this.
It's almost
Yeah.
like a pre-decided dance, like a ritual.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that is the first thing that
Yeah.
you say.
Yeah.
You reduce it.
And
Yeah.
I didn't let her, but she was very upset with this whole behavior.
Yeah.
It's
And
like-
then it's almost like you're saying, hey, don't embarrass me by being like this.
Yeah,
So then it's
yeah.
But you know what? I just realized one of the places that we do still bargain in life is in huge amounts of money, right? When you're going to rent a place or even buy a house. Where do you ever, the person says this is how much, and you're like, yep, cool, sounds
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
go.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
definitely going to bargain. So it's
Correct.
crazy that the most expensive stuff
Right.
is what you actually try to
Yeah.
bargain down.
Didn't
now.
you recently bargain with your landlady?
I did.
Everybody, I mean, who's going to just accept what the landlady
Yeah.
says? You are going to bargain there. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's very interesting because also now when me and my mom go to a market together, she's appalled that I don't bargain. Like really, like your kids would be appalled if they see you bargaining. She's appalled that I'm not doing it.
Raised you poorly. You don't know how to adult.
Exactly.
The world is going to kuchilo you.
Exactly. Oh, this line.
Yeah.
Kuch.
The world is. I'm like, ठीक है, I like who will कुचलो me realistically? A mall का shop owner या a poor
Peru seller.
या Peru seller. Like I mean, what are you even talking about?
All of us are suffering from the tyranny of Peru sellers. Overthrow the Peru mafia.
Do you think in mobility in intergenerations, it'll be better if the Peru wala give a better price for the Perus if they are cheaper? I think so. I think that might be the solution.
I wouldn't
Even if
mind a
we
Peru
do
wala
it-
overcharging, to be honest.
Yeah, but no, the dynamics of that are too messed up to be able to fix in this kind of way.
What
right?
do you
Like,
mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You and me and Shreyas stopping bargaining is not going to change
Not going to-
intergenerational mobility for small agri-business owners.
No. But
I said it as a joke, but now I feel like an idiot because it was talked about seriously.
no, but the Peru wala. So the thing is that I don't mind overpaying in like a Peru wala situation or like a pineapple wala situation is because 10-20 rupees hai.
Yeah.
That's my logic there. Ki
Yeah.
even if the person earns 10, 15 rupees, 20 rupees, even 50 rupees because of, I didn't bargain, I'm okay with it.
But there, I wonder if again this thing of budgeting for markets comes back. Because you and I don't have a budget for how much we're willing to spend on fruit in
True,
a day.
true.
But we do have a rent budget in our minds.
Yes.
And so if the person is saying more than that, either you have to abandon it and go somewhere else, or you have to bargain them down. We
Right.
don't have more. We have a fixed
Correct.
rent budget.
Correct.
Do
So
you
I think in our mothers and mother-in-laws' cases, they have budgets in mind for things like fruit, and so they're not going to pay more than that.
Which is what I was coming to. So like for example with my mom or your mom or mother-in-law, whatever, so they have this monthly budget which is like fixed, right? In our heads it's like monthly budget, but like there's fixed budget which is for rent, etc., whatever.
Yeah.
But then there is loose budget which is
Yeah.
like upar niche hote rehta hai, which we don't really track.
Yeah, and I think we would do a much better job of saving and like life in general
Yeah.
if we had that a bit more clear. I mean, it's not just that we
But
don't
we
don't even budget it. We should have, like, if you asked me how much I spent on fruit in the last month, I wouldn't be able to tell you, which is not good. I should know. It doesn't mean I should be bargaining with them. But it does mean I should
don't
know how
think-
much I spend on fruit.
I don't think that's necessary also, because for example, like, so there is fixed budget for rent, etc., right? Then there is like 20% I put away for saving, or 25%, or in a good month 30% chala jata hai. Once I do that in the beginning of the month, the rest of the money is mine.
But then that's a very organized way. So I don't have, the saving doesn't happen actively. So, if you do it in that way, then I think that makes sense.
Yeah, then I don't need to track the fruits.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
then
need to
you
track
are
the
adulting.
vegetables.
You've got
Oh,
it.
nice.
Yeah,
yes.
you've got it.
I love it. I love it, guys. I love it. Okay, there is this other section that I wanted to come to, which was this. There is a box here. Okay, about Sujata and Kavita going to buy groceries. I should make Kavita read this. Sujata and Kavita were sent to buy groceries from their neighborhood shop. This was the shop they usually went to. It was crowded today. The shop owner managed the shop himself with 2 helpers. When they managed to get into the shop, Sujata dictated a list to her. She in turn began picking her helpers to pack the items. Meanwhile, Kavita looked around. On top of on the top left shelf, there were different brands of detergent cakes. Another shelf had toothpaste, talcum powder, shampoo, hair oil. Different brands and different colors looked so attractive. On the floor lay a few sacks. It took almost 20 minutes to weigh and pack the groceries. Sujata showed her notebook. They spent 3,000 rupees. Like, the Sujata took the heavy bags out of the shop. Her family will pay for the purchases in the first week of the next month. My question here is, beech mein hua kya? Like this whole paragraph beech mein, which is on top left shelf, there were different brands, etc., etc. On the floor lay a few sacks. They just ended there. They never explain what is happening.
That's the description paragraph.
Yeah, but what are we supposed to
They're
get out
just saying
of
there's
this?
a lot of variety.
Yeah,
there are
this
lots
is
of things to
describe. They're
choose.
painting a picture to you of what that shop looks like.
But
So literal, Meghnad. What
yeah, I mean,
is this?
isn't there supposed to be some purpose to this? Oh, there were like, so for example, there is this whole thing which I keep telling people when you go to a supermarket. they always keep the most expensive things at eye level. But the alternative brands which are the same produce will be niche.
Okay.
Right, so which you can see it everywhere, like even in now normal supermarkets they do this trick, right? Upar hoga ya niche hoga. So I always walk down, like I look down and walk,
Crawling
and then
down
and then I look up, कि अच्छा ठीक है ये इसका alternative ये है which is cheaper, right? So I was thinking that it is coming to that point. Sorry, 7th grade, but yeah.
But
I was
why
wrong.
will NCRT cater that textbook to your precise
That's
quirk?
true. That's true.
I mean, nobody else walks
That's true.
looking down in shops.
That's
but because you do, NCRT has to like rewrite everything.
But yeah, that they're just describing a shop here.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all that
see-
happened.
I really want to see Meghnad's rationalized version. Like what happens there? It's just things in his mind.
But यहाँ पे they do talk about credit.
That's right.
Which
That's
is-
what they're getting at here.
Yeah, which is essentially, and also the questions are very amusing. Why did Sujata carry a notebook?
Are there? By the way, I remember this being like a loophole when I was a kid, that you can just go to a store, get anything, and be like, "Ye likh lo."
Yeah,
but then the thing is, if it goes beyond an amount,
you'll get a
then
call.
it's tracked. Yeah. Then it's then.
So my husband has a very funny story of from school. They one of his friends had this system in their neighborhood shop. So this whole gang of boys used to go there and give that auntie's name.
Yeah.
And then she used to get like 5,000 rupee bills of some chocolate and chips. She had one son and these 6 large boys used to go and order stuff from there. Even now when we drive past there, sometimes like, should we just go and ask her something and put her name down?
But is this like a uniquely Indian thing? Like such informal ways of giving credit?
Yeah, I
by a
think
shop?
informal economies in general would have this. So I would imagine other countries in which everything is not completely formal. And I also think you need to have like a very close tie between the owner and the shop
Yeah, yeah,
itself,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can't do it in a manager sort of thing.
Correct.
You know, I is this also this credit system in like normal kirana shops? I wanted to hear is it getting outdated because of UPI? Because now that I'm thinking of it, the reason why I think people also like to write it down and pay in the end of the month is because फिर cash निकाल के उतना cash इधर जाएगा, इतना cash इधर जाएगा, उधर जाएगा.
I think it's also that you get paid at the end of the month, right? So you
Also
literally
that.
do not have money on the 15th to pay for it.
Also
but
that.
you will on the 1st.
Also that.
doesn't change with UPI.
But I would like to
right?
remind you from your book that 40% of people get paid daily also.
Yeah, this is
So
it, right?
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
goes
Yeah,
out
they
of
get
the-
paid daily, but not a lot, right? So that, it might get used up pretty fast.
Correct.
And then they again would not have enough lump
Right.
sum money at some
Right.
point. Yeah.
And the answer to your question is with UPI also you can do pay later. So, right. So on UPI
Of course
you
you
can do
can.
credit.
Of course you can. Of
Right.
course you can.
So
Yeah,
Sujata can upgrade from her notebook to
Yes.
UPI, but that's
To a
about it.
Paytm pay
Yeah.
later.
What are different kind of shops that you will find in your neighborhood? What do you purchase from them? These are actually good exercises, I feel like, right?
Yeah, fun for kids to think about.
Yeah, why are goods sold in permanent shops costlier than those sold in the weekly markets?
Listen, the text addresses this.
Yeah.
I would like to direct you to paragraph.
You know, I would really like to interview the other classmates and how much they hated you when you were in school.
Yeah. We come to this fun story which I have a lot to discuss about. Okay,
Oh, yeah?
so
It got
this-
a bit dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like this guy's face and all got a bit frightening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another box, guys. So we've moved from mandi to permanent shops to now malls. Okay, Ansal Mall.
Did everybody think of Ansal Plaza instantly?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought of
Okay.
Ansal Plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also thought of Ansal
Yeah,
Plaza.
there's going to be a fire. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for it.
God, so dark. Oh no.
I also thought of that, to be honest. But anyway, Ansal Mall is a 5-floor shopping complex. Kavita and Sujata. Wait, Kavita and Sujata पहले भी गए थे ना? हाँ. Kavita and Sujata are the ones going around.
This is character continuity.
Yeah. Kavita and Sujata were enjoying going up and down in the lift. It seemed as if it it was made of glass and they were able to see outside as they went up. It was fascinating to see so many different kinds of shops such as ice cream, burger, pizza and other food shops. Shops full of home appliances, footwear and leather items as well as bookshops. While wandering about on the third floor, they entered a shop that was selling branded ready-made clothes. The security guard looked at them as if he wanted to stop them, but he did not say anything. Here is where I'll show you the picture of the security guard.
My
It will come
God.
up on your screen. He looks very scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Serial
looks like
killer, actually.
he looks like Stalin. They looked at some dresses and then looked at the price tag. None of them was less than 3,000, almost 5 times the weekly market price. Sujata whispered to Kavita, "I'll take you to another shop which has good quality ready-made clothes at reasonable prices." Why? And of course there's a question under it, which I was also wondering about. Why do you think the guard wanted to stop Kavita and Sujata from entering the shop? What would you say if someone stops you from entering a shop in the market? Love it.
Yeah,
Just-
I did think this was. I wasn't expecting this direction.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. But why do you think... So, okay, first let's try to answer this question. Why do you think the guard stopped her? Them.
See, this also happened in Chennai just last week. Like, it's not a fictional example that there were
Yes.
people who bought tickets to watch a movie, but
Yeah.
just because of the clothes they were wearing, they
Right.
were not allowed entry.
Right.
So I think that is a thing that all stores also have, right?
Yeah.
What's the exact term? Not right to entry. Discretion? No.
Right? Discretional entry?
No. There are like 3 words that they use to be like, we can decide who we can let in and who we can't.
Is that a thing though? I
No, so
mean,
I
yes, in
certainly
luxury
remember
goods
this.
shop, yeah.
But I remember this from when malls had first opened. There was this one in Bombay as well where they wouldn't just allow anybody to enter. So was that a rhetorical question or were you
No.
truly
I was truly concerning because has this ever happened to you?
No, we
It's
look
not
rich.
gonna happen to us.
It's not going to happen to us.
Never happened to you?
No.
Seriously, it happened to me twice. Yeah, once there is this hotel in central Delhi where I was wearing. I think they had a problem with my clothes.
it
Those
wasn't,
sorts of things like
Yeah,
shoes or pants.
shoes
or
to
whatever.
definitely. And they were like, "Oh, nahi ja sakte." I'm like, "Why?" And then he looked down and said nothing. And I'm like, "Why?" And he looked down again and then looked at me. And then I'm like, "What is happening?" It's like, "Nahi jaane de sakte." So I realized that he's looking down at my shoes and then basically not letting me in or
But
something.
it must have been like this
This is our code.
place. That's right, dress code. Like
Dress
a
code,
dress
right.
shoes only sort
Right,
of place.
but then immediately after that I saw a woman go in with like a sandal. Like, I mean,
so dress codes are different for
Different for
men.
different-
and
No, but that's my thing, right? You know, it's so unfair. Sorry, it was very unfair. It felt humiliating because I was
Right.
put out of a line and then this
Fucking
happened.
get over it, man.
I
There
know.
are bigger
I was just
problems in the
thinking,
country.
we
Fucking
have
get
this-
over it.
We have this story of Kavita and Sujata, two highly underprivileged poor girls
Yeah.
who are being frightened by this man, and then you made it about yourself.
Of course I did. I wanted to express my angst
Because
that
it was
this does
some
happen.
hotel, some club, it's fine.
It's like freaking elitist fucks. What is this?
It's fine.
Anyway, then
But I also have an elite story.
the second time it happened was in a Bulgari, whatever, however you pronounce it, right? So in a mall in Delhi. When I first came to Delhi, I was mortally afraid of going to malls after that because in this shop I went there and they were just like, "Aap nahi ja sakte andar."
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't let you into a shop?
No, they were like,
So
"Nahi ja
surprised.
sakte andar," and I was like, "Why?" And then again they don't tell you. They don't tell you कि तेरा कपड़ा अच्छा नहीं है, तू गरीब दिखता है, तू ये है वो है, whatever. They'll just look at you up and down, and they're like, "नहीं जा सकते." Right, and this has happened to me twice, so I know now that this is actually a technique where they don't have to say it, but you have to understand it कि तू गरीब दिखता है, तू अंदर नहीं जा सकता, तू afford नहीं कर पाएगा. And these people are the ones taking this decision.
Right.
They can't afford anything inside either.
Give me a moment while I take out the world's smallest violin.
please.
Sorry,
I can't believe you're still talking about it. You went with example 2. That is.
I had to complain, guys. Okay, go on. You have an elite example.
Example 3, let's
Example
call it.
3.
I know I'm not drawing any sympathy here. I am aware, okay, but I still have to say it.
I would like to say I'm not looking for sympathy here. I would like to start off by saying that. So I was in New York. I was in Times Square, and suddenly there's a bomb scare. Okay, this was right after Charlie Hebdo. So like people are like on their edge. So I have a shopping bag. I was just shopping, and when this happened, in all the stampede, not I've seen so many stampedes because of India, so it's like
Right.
nothing there. But in all the rush, I lost my bag. I also lost my shoes. Both my shoes, and then they just closed off the entry
Oh,
to the
this
subway.
is like an actual stampede then.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
lose
yeah,
your
yeah.
shoes and all.
Because there were people like crying,
Right.
and like when people went out, there was nothing, and people were
Right.
like, okay, it's fine. And then I didn't have shoes, and it was very cold, so I was like, okay, I need to fucking get some shoes. I tried to enter the first shoe store that I see, and they're like, you can't enter this store because you don't have shoes. That's why I'm coming in the store.
And did you tell them that I want to buy shoes?
Then I went to a cop and I was like, yo, this probably is like, I'll help you. I'll fucking help you
wow.
get some shoes.
This feels like a existential issue.
Yeah, it does. So it has never happened to you.
No.
Oh, so that's why there is no sympathy coming
Maybe
from
it
And
this
even
side.
if it did,
Watch
she
my
hasn't made her
face, I
whole
don't know.
personality around it. Like, it's
Yeah.
not in her head.
Rukmini
is
is
it.
like, I always looked appropriate enough to walk
This is
into
it.
a
I don't
store.
know what you're talking about. Nobody looked me up and down ever.
Yeah. This does happen, is what I was trying to say. And
Or at least, I tie my shoelaces really tightly
Yeah.
so that doesn't happen to me.
this is a signal to all kids that listen, this can happen to you.
No, this is a signal to all kids that inequality exists in the world. You should engage with it and talk about it and not make it about yourself. I think that's what the signal
I'm
here
talking
is.
about inequality only through the examples that I have experienced, okay?
You have not experienced inequality ever.
I
You know
haven't.
that, right?
True,
Yeah.
true. I know. I'm very that I'm aware of. Okay,
Okay.
Shreyas. I'm just giving these two
Okay.
small examples.
Wasn't
of,
clear in the last 10 minutes. That's why I was just asking again.
Okay, there is this one fascinating thing. This is the suspense I was
Oh
holding
my
on
God,
to.
I've been waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is this shopping malls and complexes. Okay, they say these days in many urban areas you have large multi-storied air-conditioned buildings with shops on different floors known as malls. In these urban markets, you get both branded and non-branded good. As you have read in the chapter on advertising, branded goods are expensive, often promoted by advertising and claims of better quality. You know the fun part?
There's no
they have
chapter on
deleted the
advertising.
chapter on advertising.
Why?
Yeah. So we were going to also like do maybe an episode later on the advertising chapter which was deleted.
Yeah.
But my thing is that you are rationalizing the curriculum. Right, to delete certain chapters, but aren't you going through like different references of the other chapters and actually removing inconsistencies from the book? Because so the recent news reports which were there, they were all about, oh, ये section हटा दिया, ये section हटा दिया, ये rationalize कर दिया, and the answer is कि हम rationalize कर रहे हैं, right? Now, I'm okay with like you removing advertisement ka chapter, right? But at the same time, have some consistency throughout the book, no?
Sure, but if you just put a line through from as to advertising, the rest of it makes sense. Right?
I'm just pointing
so
out
this is an
that
editing issue is what you're saying.
I am saying that this is a major editing issue, or yes, but also a major issue which I have a problem with.
You have come here to be the victim today. I don't know what you have eaten in the morning.
Why would I be a victim here? I'm just pointing out कि तुमको अगर curriculum rationalize करना है तो at least consistently करो. That's what I'm trying to say.
Agreed, we are with you.
Yeah.
Good.
We are with
Is
you on
is
that.
this it on the suspense though?
Yeah, that was it.
I might need my money back over here. I was expecting something big.
Something big.
Wait.
No, this
Yeah.
is not big.
Yeah.
You're
Big
getting
enough.
you're getting paid for this? What?
But okay, so
I
yeah,
just want to ask
guess-
a blanket question while we still have the time. What are some general consumer insights, Indian
Yeah.
consumer insights that you have seen in your work that
Yeah.
are unique to our country, that baffle you, that fascinate you?
Mm-hmm.
So here's one I love, which is how do spending patterns change when people start getting richer? and I don't mean this as individuals, so over time, because we have sort of time series data on consumption over time.
Right.
And the most amazing thing to me was that the share of eating out and eating packaged food is the biggest change in Indian consumer spending.
Oh.
So so now eating out, including packaged food, is the largest share of spending in urban households.
Okay.
And that's a big change from how it was in 11-12 even, so just like 7-8 years. And it could mean a bunch of things. I mean, definitely you do see much more packaged food. I think migrants do a lot of eating on the street, so it's a mix of all of that. And I think there's interesting work that's been done on the choices you make around food and around spending, and the role of like pleasure in it, that also just choosing to spend on something that's
Not essential.
yummy,
Yeah.
it really does explain part of the way things change as well. So I think for a long time, and of course yumminess is not the answer to this question, but for a long time there was a big question
Ease
about
also,
why.
like ease of.
Yeah. So there's always been this almost like a mystery about Indian consumption, which is that even though people have got richer over time, if you look at it historically, the calorific consumption has dropped. And part of it is explained by people doing less physical jobs.
Sure.
So you would understand that. But it's dropped even beyond that in ways that don't make sense.
Yeah.
So like Jean Drèze and Angus Deaton wrote quite a bit about this, that it isn't really like it's inexplicable. So I think people, particularly leftist economists, would be quick to see this fall in calorific consumption as, oh my God, people are getting poorer and can't afford to feed themselves.
Yeah.
While their pushback, even though it was from the left, was that that's not what the numbers are showing. The numbers are not showing that people can't afford that many calories even. But something is going on.
Are they eating healthy? No.
No, so it wasn't, we are still at such a low calorific consumption level nationally that it's not yet that.
Right.
If you had to guess a reason, what would it be? Because this is strange, right? I mean, if you're saying that it's not about affordability of food, it is not about people getting poorer.
Yeah, so there's, slices between this.
Is it about access to food? Is it about just the food quality deteriorating? I don't know.
So even people reporting hunger is not rising. So that's it's not even that. There is some sort of, it could just be bad data, and I think that's a very good chance. So I don't mean what they are interpreting as bad data, but perhaps the ability of calorific consumption to accurately capture. So a lot of our understanding of poverty even is built around calorific consumption.
Yes. Right.
And really moving away from that is something that everybody now encourages we should do, because it's not very well tied with consumption alone. So so I just mean that the role of food and what we choose to eat, and choosing to eat more perhaps unhealthy things, packaged things, but because maybe they just give a bit more pleasure or are more time saving, is certainly something that we see. So
I feel like one more thing is that, so I was reading this something about how the problem of diabetes and obesity in America, about how fast food in America is so universally available and also cheaper than regular food that you get. That is one of the big reasons, cornstarch, etc., why Americans have an obesity and diabetes problem. That hasn't really happened in India except in a few states. Like I was looking at Gujarat has a high diabetes, also because they eat a lot of flour and a lot of maida.
But then so does Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Very high diabetes there
high
as well.
diabetes and so it's not exactly because of fast food. Right?
Yeah, no.
I think Kerala had this thing where they were trying to put a tax on fast food to prevent this from happening, but that's not the reason here. So when you're talking about like low calorie consumption, like universally abhi low calorie consumption, again these two things don't fit for me also, because now fast food is also available to us everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, especially in urban areas and even in tier 2 towns, like it's all, and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah. So I think that thing in India of getting richer and eating more unhealthy, that does happen in some parts of the country, and we are seeing obesity rising, particularly among women, including in the southern states. we've not actually done a good job of getting information about what is actually healthy food across at all. So, there's a writer, Krish Ashok. I don't know.
Yes.
So he does a great job of this on his Insta stories and stuff, because there is so much, and I feel this a lot in Tamil Nadu, so much valorization of quote unquote traditional food as being superior, when actually, so things like, so many people I know say, I don't have any sugar, I only have jaggery and palm sugar. And that's not helping.
That's
or
not
people who say, I only eat that Kerala rice, the red rice. I don't eat white rice anymore. That's okay, but if you're still having a mountain of it for lunch, that's still a bit of a problem. So we've done a really poor job of that. I mean, even among Maharashtrians, right? Like toop. If you're having toop, then that is like the healthy thing to do.
बिना तूपचं पुरणपोळी कसं खाल तुम्ही? पुरणपोळी हेल्दी आहे आणि खायला चालतं.
Correct. And आजकाल काय खूप काय trans fat खायला लागलेत लोक. That is the problem. And if we get gur and toop, then we'll be healthy like our grandparents. And like, first of all,
No.
life expectancy was like,
First of all, our
10 years
grandparents
less.
are dead. Second of all,
this is it.
Okay, one last point before we end this, I wanted to sort of talk about this part where there's this picture which shows people in urban areas can enter markets without stepping out of their homes via the internet. Zepto. They use their credit cards to make online purchases. This part shows 83.
Yeah.
The thing is,
Has this person taken the chip out of the card?
I was also like,
seems like a scam happening.
Yes.
No.
Chase Bank, okay. No, the thing is, I was wondering about this. Ek to, they are not mentioning UPI. Again, same thing. Sorry, again, same complaint about rationalization, where you are rationalizing things, but you're not updating things also. You're not putting UPI, which is the biggest success of your government right now.
But what are the numbers of UPI?
Oh, it's big, na? UPI is now very big.
I don't know it, but it
But
would be
do
big.
we
I mean, more
trust,
than credit
do we trust
cards.
those numbers that are coming from the government being like so many people are on UPI and this and that?
I would say anecdotally.
Yeah, anecdotally, it's ubiquitous.
Yeah. I mean, like in the last 2-3 years or whoever I spoke to, they were like, हम तो cash निकालते ही नहीं अब. Like सभी जगह पे, see, Shubhankar is also agreeing with this. Abhay is also agreeing with this. So basically, it's like पहले जो cash निकालना पड़ता था, I barely take out cash anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But-
for us, for sure, but even more broadly, I do feel like there is a huge growth in digital
There is.
payments.
Yeah.
So, in fact,
No,
here
and-
I'm going to agree with
Yeah, go on, go
Meghnad,
on.
which is that if you're going to give credit cards for online purchase as an example, UPI is like exponentially more. So that would be a better example for most people. I
And
agree.
because right now, in the market around you,
Yeah.
this is a reality.
Correct.
This is something you need to put in the
Right.
book,
Yeah, the
right?
QR
Definitely.
code on a thela wala is now.
You're putting
It's a
QR
reality.
code on a
What kids
chapter.
are-
But you can't put it on this.
But a Chase credit card for
Yeah,
online
Are
Chase
purchase.
they asking
credit
for
card.
donations? No. Civics chapter? No.
And I was thinking, I'm very very strong about this, especially now, because initially I had this opinion कि मैं city में रहता हूँ तो city में ही सब use कर रहे हैं. Then I went to cover elections.
Yeah.
I went to West Bengal. I went to Goa. I went to UP. In the remotest part of UP, मैं चाय के लिए मैं UPI use कर रहा हूँ.
Yeah.
Like 5 रुपए के चाय के लिए I can use UPI now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that is real penetration of digital payments everywhere, right?
I agree.
कहीं भी रुक के, like, and it's actually quite crazy how this is happening and happening so fast that data penetration also is obviously this, and there's this other project we've been doing where we went to Shahadra in Delhi, where I met this shopkeeper who was like कि उसने ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्शन यूपीआई के लिए लिया, लाइक उसके शॉप में.
So it's actually driving that.
Yeah,
in a
because
way.
he's like कि इतने transactions होते हैं कि 3G काम ही नहीं करता, कभी कभी 4G काम नहीं करता, but इतने लोग आ रहे हैं UPI के लिए कि I had to get a broadband connection to make it work, right?
Yeah.
And now he's happy. He's like चल रहा है सब कुछ.
Yeah.
What is this? So you agree with me there?
I
right?
do.
But do you have any insights to give on the digitization that is happening in the markets around us? Because I feel like that is a thing that I want to talk about.
Yeah. No, so I would say I agree anecdotally. I also feel like we recently got, so we've not had any good data on internet usage for a long time now. And I don't trust industry data. I would prefer this from the government side. But we got some now over 2019-20, and yeah, there's a huge increase in people using the internet. They actually have, for a government survey, particularly cool questions. They call them ICT questions, and they ask them, what can you actually do? So can you send an email with an attachment, that sort of thing. Of course, there it's super interesting to see the geographic differences. So, if you arrange it in like a bar chart of share of people in 15 to 29 age group who have these ICT skills, including one has code, that can you write some code. There's all your states, and there's a gradual rise, and then there's Kerala that just shoots off the top of that chart. So I actually felt like even for a potential, people hiring, it would make so much sense to set up anything IT related in Kerala, given the share of, just the pool that would be available of people who can do some amount of IT stuff. So yeah, that was pretty telling. And yeah, I would trust UPI numbers, and I do think that it's a case of not just technological advancement, but of it working in all ways that have worked in a culturally perfect way. So someone was recently telling me that I think Paytm has voice like speakers where transactions can be read out. So even someone who can't figure parts of it out would be, so yeah, I think it's like a great fit between what was needed technologically, what works within the constraints of what people have, so on phones and not getting into complex stuff. And this is where, if you travel overseas, you really do feel like, wow, we are so advanced on that respect. So yeah, I do see that.
And even like people, so I thought that literacy would be one of the big barriers with UPI, right? People don't know how to use it or whatever. But my person who comes to take care of my garden, he's the one who essentially actually uses UPI more than cash. The last month I tried to give him cash. He's like, क्या है phone से दे दो ना. I mean, cash कौन ले रहा है आजकल? I'm like, that makes no sense to me from his perspective. But his perspective is that कि अभी मैं जो भी खरीद रहा हूँ वो मैं इसी से खरीद रहा हूँ, तो फिर मैं अब आपसे क्यों cash लूँगा? Which makes so much sense to me, and I was actually shook because he gives me his phone and he's like, आप कर दो. He doesn't know how to do it properly, but he trusts me enough to sort of do this. Which means that he's doing it to a lot of other people, and they're also doing it. So which means that he understands the value of like a digital transaction, but he doesn't know how to do it, but he will find a way to do it because it's so valuable for him.
Like the word usually used is adoption, but I feel like the word here is really like embrace, the way people have taken it up. So it's just whatever is needed, we'll figure it out because we get it, and this is something we want to do. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I want to ask, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, just one question, then we'll...
So it's something that you talk about very eloquently in your book. So I just want to give a chance for our viewers also to get it straight from you. Is the Indian middle class living comfortably?
So we're going to have to start with what the middle class is. I'm not going to get into the numbers for it, but what I've come down to thinking is that there is a rich 5%, and then there is poor and not super poor. I don't really think that we have a middle class in the way that most people think of a middle class. So if you think of what is the numerical middle class, like what is literally in the middle, they are not comfortable at all. If you do not have full access to toilets, you do not have electricity all day, and you do not have water in your premises, which we know from some of the data, I don't really think this fits a middle class definition very well. So of course there have been improvements between 11-12 and 19-20, which we have some data for, but it's not the notion of a middle class anywhere else in the world. That's not what you think of as the middle class. So I would think of it as people not super poor, and then there's all of us. Poor, not super poor, all of us.
So when you say comfort, like are middle class comfortable, so like defining comfort would be basic needs like water, sanitation, house, clothes, food.
Electricity, I think, is a big one.
Electricity.
Yeah, and by which
Internet?
I mean like having electricity for a substantial part of the
Sure,
day, which
sure.
really is not
It's
the
not.
beyond metros. It's just not a thing
Yeah, yeah.
anywhere in the country.
Would
so,
you include internet in this? Or a
yeah, so if you thought of it
phone?
as data,
Hmm.
phone and
Data.
data, then yeah. And again, very interesting with phones as well is just how much of a gender gap there still is in exclusive access to phones.
Yeah.
And we know this for now, very recent information as
Right,
well.
yeah.
So,
right.
some of those things actually end up not being about class alone. They end up being also mediated by other things like gender. So, you may be in the middle class where most people have phones, but you're a woman, so you have less exclusive access to the phone, that sort of thing.
I also found this very interesting when, again, anecdotally, completely anecdotal. I went to Orissa in this, like, we were doing like these rallies in villages, etc. And this was not recently, maybe in 2017, right? I found this that there were these houses where they had solar electricity, right? Where they were like charging whatever. It was connected to just one port, and I was very interested to see what they were charging. So TV was connected to it, but it was connected to the main line whenever they got electricity. But to
Right.
the solar, chargers were connected
Right.
all over.
Yeah.
Right, the solar electricity was used to connect the chargers because the only thing that got electricity in the entire village was a mobile tower.
Oh, wow.
Regularly, like 24/7, right? Because the private company made sure that the thing got
It's
it.
there, yeah.
But the village itself didn't have electricity most of the time, right? So it was very interesting to see what they were charging. One was mobile phones, and the other was this tiny fan, which was obviously it was hot. So this powered, like solar powered fan. That was the two things that they thought were the most important to do.
Most important, but probably you could not charge very high sucking things like your
True.
fridge from it.
True.
So these are probably the things that you could
could.
charge off
But
it
but
as
the
well.
fact that they got the solar panel to sort of have this little power outlet and they used it to charge these devices.
Yeah.
Also, what I found was like the amount of people that were doing Facebook lives of us going around. Yeah, like I mean, we later, basically the district people who were with us, they showed us like there were at least 7 live streams going on different pages. Just
Crazy.
village people
Yeah.
who were just streaming it on Facebook
Wow.
of us going around it, and we were not doing anything. We were just walking around. It's nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry, anecdotally. Closing thoughts, guys. Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts, much better written chapter than I thought, much more empathetic than I would imagine.
Right.
So if these are ways that, that conversations start getting sparked in classrooms, then it's not as bad as I would think if these are some of the ways to think about it. But I would say I found it very basic also from the perspective of just how complex markets are.
Yeah.
So I remember going to report on market mandis, wheat mandis in MP. And after doing as a journalist, you feel you can go to do anything, ask some questions and figure something out. And at the end of it, I was like, I do not understand how mandis
Right,
work.
right.
The procurement is
Right.
like beyond me.
This happened with me during the farmers' protest,
Mhm.
where this whole bill came. I was like, legislation to pad liya, but
Yeah.
genuinely don't know how mandis work. So I
Yeah.
went to the protest. So there's a video, you can also check it out, called Meghnad asks dumb questions to farmers. Because I was like, everybody's just going and saying that, oh, ye farm bill,
Yeah.
ye ho raha hai. I'm like, mujhe samajh mein hi nahi aata
But
mandi
there's
kya
also
hai.
farmers, and then with mandis, there's so many other players. So
Precisely.
many loops to it. I can honestly say I do not understand
Yeah,
it.
the whole Aarthi system,
This
the
is
middleman
it.
system,
Yeah.
the whole thing, the whole crux of the protest was this Aarthi.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody's like, "Arey, ye to middleman hai, whatever." And then I genuinely wanted to understand what they do. They're like a bank.
Yeah.
They're like a bank for just people. But anyway, I think we are out of time.
Yeah.
Shreyas, any closing thoughts?
No, I've just heard some rumors that I hope are true that this book, which all of you should absolutely get, is going to be in the syllabus for 7th standard. That's what I'm
Amazing.
hearing
I love it.
From
I
my
love it.
sources.
I love it. Yeah, we'll just highlight some charts and etc.
Yeah, there are. I've
डाल देंगे इसमें.
Done.
चलो.
Perfect.
But thank you so much, Rukmini.
Thank you.
for doing this with
It was
us.
a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you, Shreyas, for co-hosting again.
Of course.
Yeah.
You said it like I'm going to be be fired for the next episode.
Yeah, thank you. This is the last time I see you here.
Keep watching How to Citizen. The next episode that we have is a continuation of this chapter, which is a shirt in the market, and we have a very exciting guest with us. हमने mention किया क्या ये episode में वो कौन guest है? नहीं किया ना?
Shirt भी
करे क्या
mention नहीं
साक्षी
किया ना?
mention? नहीं करे.
नहीं.
But okay. Thank you so much. Bye bye.